I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction.
You guys are trying to make this poor schmuck who showed up to your protest into something a lot bigger than he is.
Those who were there in an undercover capacity on January 6th, how many were there?
Again, I'm not sure that I can give you the numbers as I sit here.
Hey folks, this January 6th thing does not seem to want to go away. And I guess this is what you get when you sweep stuff under the carpet. Anyway, welcome back to One and Done. It's your boy George, and without delay, let's roll the tape.
Military veteran and Oath Keepers chapter president Ray Epps is free. Epps was sentenced to a year of probation for participating in the 2021 Capitol riots yesterday. Epps also received a $500 fine and was ordered to serve 100 hours of community service. Last week, prosecutors had recommended 6 months of jail time for Epps. Reporter Greg Price wrote on X, Ray Epps, the only January 6 protester who actually told people to go into the Capitol, has been officially sentenced to 1 year probation, $500 restitution, and 100 hours of community service. While many J6 protesters are rotting in jail for nonviolent crimes, Epps escapes a prison term entirely. Here's footage of Epps from that day.
Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. What? No! Peacefully. Fed.
Meanwhile, new footage released by the Justice Department shows a heated exchange between 2 Republican congressmen and Capitol rioters on January 6th. Let's watch.
I'm at the Capitol. Why is inside the building? We're trying to get in. We got the glass broken. These are all your patriots. Are they in there? This is our house. This is our house.
Our house. How do you handle this? Open the door, brother. How do you handle it? Come on, man. Open the door.
They're socialist pigs. You're going to kill patriots and put this war together. What's wrong with you?
Now, that last video was shot by Damon Beckley, who was found guilty of obstructing the Electoral College certification and civil disorder by a federal judge, per CNN. Meanwhile, the White House has slammed former President Donald Trump for referring to January 6 rioters as hostages during a speech over the weekend. Trump called on President Biden to, quote, release the J6 hostages, and White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre responded, it is grotesque to make those kinds of comparisons.
I will just again note that if Donald Trump considered them hostages or political prisoners, and this was so important to him, he could have freed them while he was still president in his last few days, as many of his very conservative supporters urged him to do so. He declined to take that action.
Okay, so I take Robbie's point. He could have let these people out when he was president, but correct me if I'm wrong, all the evidence wasn't available at the time. And this Ray Epps thing, I mean, oh my goodness. How on earth is this guy basically getting off scot-free? $500 fine for telling them to get into the Capitol? This is almost as fishy as Fannie Willis. And some of the protesters there were actually calling Ray Epps out, saying he was a Fed. And he was the only one that said for everyone to go into the Capitol building, to enter the White House. Yet he pretty much gets off scot-free. Bizarre. And Henry Enrique Tarrio got 22 years. Something just ain't right here. It's just not adding up.
What I make of that is that the Republican Party was embarrassed and humiliated and slinking around like a dog with its tail between its legs in the wake of January 6th. There's been a lot of revisionism going on right now, but a lot of folks who are also echoing that hostage language, like Vivek Ramaswamy.
There's a lot of revision going on because we've only just received the evidence. So that's a crazy thing to say.
Tweeted immediately after January 6th that it was a shameful event and the Republican Party needed to do some introspection.
Once again, from the information he had at the time. New information's come to hand, so he has a different perspective on it now. It's pretty simple.
Now, we're here, all of these years later, where there's this effort to rehabilitate what happened. But even frankly, watching the video, I know we're supposed to be focused on Ray Epps calling for people to go into the Capitol, but
yeah,
the argument is undermined by seeing a throng of people push over barricades, assault police officers, and force their way into the Capitol. It's hard to reduce what happened on 1/6 to the actions of one man or say that his saying out loud that we should go into the Capitol, and that was the clear desire and intent of thousands of people as they push past the barricades, it seems a little reductive.
Well, I agree, but I think the criticism is that Democrats and the media have tried to do exactly that with respect to Donald Trump, put it all on one man.
Sure.
When in fact, this was a chaotic, confused day involving thousands of protesters, many of them who did absolutely nothing wrong, who were just engaging in First Amendment protected activity, some who unquestionably violated the law, like the people we just saw on camera, anyone who knocked down barricades, fought with cops, smashed windows, went into the Capitol in such fashion should absolutely have been arrested and prosecuted, and I have no opposition to that. Those people are not hostages. We must be a party, as Donald Trump conceded at one point, of law and order. That is purportedly important to Republicans, so I don't have any problem with that. I do understand why some, again, while still acknowledging that there is no evidence that, or none has been presented to me, if you have some, show it. Show us the evidence. People can't just make claims and not have anything to back it up. But I understand people finding it fishy that a man on camera repeatedly over and over again saying we should, telling people to go into the Capitol, being called out. That's the funny thing, being called out by all the people around him saying because the person, if you're in, far right activist circles, the person inducing you to commit crimes is sometimes someone being paid by the government to do so, as was the case in the Russia Whitmer
That's also what you can say about Donald Trump, that the person calling for people to march to the Capitol and telling them that the rights are being stripped away inside is the one that's culpable. And in defense...
Brianna is so disingenuous. She always wears her colors on her sleeve. No surprise with her. There really isn't. She can't see the story for what it is. This guy had to have been a plant. For sure he was a Fed. People called it out on the day, previous to the day, the leading up to the event itself. Absolute plant. And if the video footage isn't enough, he's serving a nothing burger for the crime.
Of Donald Trump, and I think rightly so, his speech, it should not be criminalized on the day of 1/6. So I just frankly don't think you can have it both ways. I agree with you. There's an interesting parallel between how Democrats are framing Donald Trump and how Republicans are framing Ray Epps.
But Brianna, once again, this is about Ray Epps. It's not about Donald Trump. Okay? They can't serve a sentence together. Otherwise, Donald Trump would be getting let off just like Ray Epps is. Surely you can work this out.
But I think it's appropriate in neither case to say that we need to throw the book on the person who happens to have been loudest and caught on camera, as opposed to the people who actually committed the violence, who are serving sentences on average of only 2 months.
Prosecutors have treated Ray Epps with kid. I mean, in the document for sentencing, they talked about how his life was ruined and how it's so sad for him.
I mean, it was. Robbie.
He's not serving a day in prison.
Oh my goodness.
Do you deny that he has been the focus of a multi-year right-wing conservative attack that's been very prominent on Fox News with people like Tucker Carlson?
But what do you care? What do you care? If he's from the right, what on earth do you care? Something suspect here.
Calling him out specifically, calling him an op and a Fed in ways that have not been substantiated.
People were calling him a Fed at the time,
and that he's had concerns about his safety and the like as a consequence of those attacks?
I'm just telling you why many conservatives have questions about his involvement and whether there was something not quite above board there.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go down that road. Not you, but if conservatives want to go down that road and play those games, because it really is identical to what's happening with Donald Trump, except at a smaller scale.
But Donald Trump didn't tell everyone to storm the Capitol, go inside the Capitol. He said to go and protest peacefully. We are the party of law and order. That's what he said.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this.
You want to go down the path of saying that the person who was loud with their speech on the day that something happened is the most culpable, as opposed to the people who actually committed the malfeasance.
Ray Epps did use the words "go into the Capitol" repeatedly. Donald Trump, now I think his rhetoric was reckless and inflamed the crowd, and you can assign moral blame to him for what happened. He did not He did not instruct the protesters to engage in violence or to enter the Capitol. He said, I mean, it was more vague than that. I'm not making excuses for it. You can think it was totally inappropriate. I certainly do. You can think it was an impeachable offense. But he did not specifically say go into the Capitol premises. He asked his people to march to the Capitol. He said he would be joining them. Didn't do that. But he said he did not. He did not. He said we should project strength. He did not, with using the direct language that Ray Epps did, tell people to go in. So anyway, we will be continuing to
take that,
litigate
Brianna. Take
January 6th for some time to come, I suspect, as it is the focus of all these Donald Trump-esque trials to some degree. And I don't think it's necessarily good for the Republican Party to be backward-looking toward it, but here we are.
It is also the focus of so much conservative media who has made the decision, an unforced decision, a completely voluntary decision, to make the people that we just watched in those clips into heroes and to frame them as political prisoners.
I mean, I think that's a reaction to the mainstream media's framing of January 6th as akin to, and not just the media, frankly, but actually the prosecutors of people like Enrico Tarrio as a kind of terrorist attack, as a psychic attack on the nation on par with 9/11.
Now, January 6th, 120,000 protesters turned up. Now, out of that, some people went into the Capitol peacefully, and some people rioted. 450 people have been charged, and one person is spending 22 years in prison. Now, the only person found to have said, let's go into the Capitol, was Ray Epps, and he is serving 0 time. And he has been shown on video to say these things to incite these rioters, I guess. He's said on multiple occasions, let's go into the Capitol. He got called out as a Fed by the people that were attending there, people that were surrounding him. And once again, super suspicious, the guy's getting no time, a $500 fine, like a slap on the hand. And the Democrats came all around him and surrounded him and coddled him to say that his life has been changed forever, and, you know, they felt sorry for him.
Mr. Epps was in front of the January 6th committee, and we were told that a transcript of his interview would be released, but it's never been released. And I wondered, was he sworn
None
in?
of the transcripts have been released, so you don't need a conspiracy theory about that. We haven't released any of them.
Were you present when he was interviewed? That would give me some...
No, I was not. I was not. We've done more than 1,000 interviews. You guys are trying to make this poor schmuck who showed up to your protest into something a lot bigger than he is. Okay, he's just trying to survive, and he's on your side. You don't have many voters left. You might want to try to hang on to them without demonizing and vilifying your own people.
Isn't that bizarre? That's just super weird. They felt sorry for him, the guy that incited people to go in to the Capitol building. Someone's on pot, and the only thing that goes in pot is a plant, and he is, well, in my opinion, he sounds like a plant. Now, the only person to have died or been fatally shot on that day was Ashley Babbitt, and she was shot by Capitol Police. Now, other people died later on, days after, weeks after. I think there were 4 policemen that died, but they took their own lives. Why did they take their own lives, you may ask? Well, I'm asking the same question. It's a bit suspicious.
Unforced decision, a completely voluntary decision to make the people that we just watched in those clips into heroes and to frame them as political prisoners.
I mean, I think that's a reaction to the mainstream media's framing of January 6th as akin to, and not just the media, frankly, but actually the prosecutors of people like Enrico Tarrio as a kind of terrorist attack, as a psychic attack on the nation on par with 9/11. We watched Jonathan Capehart on MSNBC the other day literally tearing up when forced to recall it, AOC crying about that day. I don't want to... It was a very bad day. It was a very embarrassing day for the nation and for Donald Trump, and lawbreakers should always be held accountable. But I think a sense of proportion is warranted and is sometimes not there on both sides for the people talking.
Right. Well, in this segment, we're talking about Republicans advocating for higher sentences for Ray Epps. That's the argument here.
No, we're not asking for Republicans. We're asking for justice. Where is the justice in getting off scot-free, paying a $500 fine? I got a red light camera that was more than that. Come on. Robbie is the only reason I watched this show, because this Brianna, super bad.
That Ray Epps should have a higher sentence because he's more culpable than others in this scenario because of the nature of his speech, or the loudness of his speech that day and the fact that it was caught on camera. That does not sit well with me, but let us know what you think in the comment section. Stick around for more Rising.
All right, first, this is an easy wrap up. This is the Democrat Party once again. Think about it. They hid the footage. They selectively edited it. There was 120,000 people that attended the White House on January 6th. They have since charged 450 people for rioting. They claim many people lost their lives from this event. The only person that was fatally shot on the day was Ashley Babbitt, and she was shot by Capitol Police. So 120,000 protesters turn up, 450 have been charged, and not one of them has been charged with insurrection. Now believe me, if it was an insurrection, they would be criminally charged, because the Democrats have done everything within their power to charge these people. One guy gets 22 years and Ray Epps get a $500 fine. They hide thousands of hours of footage because they don't want you to know what happened. How many feds were involved in that 120,000 people?
How many agents were actually, agents or human resources were present at the Capitol complex and vicinity on January 6th?
Well, again, it's going to get confusing because it depends on when we deployed and responded to the breach that occurred. Obviously,
how many were under
federal agents?
Sure. Yeah, you're talking, and you and I both know what we're talking different things here. And please don't distract here, because we're focusing on those who were there in an undercover capacity on January 6th. How many were there?
Again, I'm not sure that I can give you that number as I sit here.
How many feds were there? They won't tell us. So there we have it, folks. I know I'm going to get my leftist friends dropping some comments in the box. You're more than welcome to. I'll respond. So let's wrap this up. Thanks once again for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on any of my videos. And I'll catch you in the next one.